Hi guys, Chris Wheatley here, Arsenal correspondent for Goal, and I'm here outside the Emirates Stadium ahead of tonight's Group A opener. It's PSG against Arsenal. It's the opening game. It's going to be a huge game and arguably the biggest of Arsenal's group. I'm going to be discussing the team news, what kind of lineup. Obviously the game tonight is being played at the Parc des Princes in Paris. Loic Tanzi, our PSG correspondent, is there. He'll be bringing you all the latest as well. But we'll still be bringing you content from that. So stay tuned. And I'll wait for the viewers to come in. While I wait for the viewers to come in, I'll take you around the Emirates. Very quiet at the moment. There's a few fans. Spoke to a few earlier. Predictions for the game, very confident. One predicted Alexis Sanchez and Giroud to score. Another predicted a comprehensive win. So feeling in the air is confidence. And I'm pretty confident as well. PSG haven't been doing particularly well in the league so far. Their last match was a draw against Saint-Germain. Edinson Cavani is obviously a big threat up front. They've got Lucas Moura as well, Blaise Matuidi. There's a lot of good players there, but at the same time Arsenal have a fantastic attacking threat. Alexis Sanchez, Mesut Ozil, Theo Walcott, Olivier Giroud, all of them are capable of breaching that strong PSG defence. Thiago Silva's obviously in there, and he's one to look out for. But I think in general, Arsenal do have a very strong squad on paper, and they can be confident of coming away from Paris with 3 points tonight. Again, a draw would be a good result, but in general, I think Wenger's side will be looking to get the 3 points. And that, if you see his lineup, which will be out very soon, you'll see exactly what kind of game plan he's going for tonight, and it's going to be an attacking one. James asked for any early team news. We don't have any team news at the moment. I'm predicting that Olivier Giroud is going to start on his own up front, supported by Ozil, Sanchez and Walcott. That's my predicted attack. In defence, I think it will be the same as the game against Southampton. Shukran Mustafi will make his first European start alongside Laurent Koscielny, who's back from an injury sustained to his face at the weekend. He was a doubt for this game, but he's going to be raring to go, which is good because obviously Laurent Koscielny at the moment, for me, sorry, technical problems there. For me, Laurent Koscielny is the best defender in the Premier League at the moment. Really superb defender. He just has everything. Aerial presence, can intercept everything that comes his way, and he can obviously score. His goal at the weekend, an overhead kick against Southampton, was absolutely fantastic. Reece, also my predicted score. I'm going to go for 2-1 Arsenal. I think it's going to be tight, as always. Most of the games this season have been tight for Arsenal, but I think tonight is going to be very scrappy. Both teams do like to get the ball down and play, but I think that could counteract each other. I think Arsenal have the edge at full-back, and I think Bellerin and Monreal are going to be on form tonight. I've got a good feeling about their performances, and I think as well Olivier Giroud's got something to prove back in his homeland. He's going to want to impress against Unai Emery's side. So yes, more questions coming in. Chris asked, would you start Coquelin next to Xhaka? No, I'd start Xhaka and Santi Cazorla. I think Xhaka is suited to European football, top level football. I'm not sure about Coquelin. He did well at the weekend. I really do like Francis Coquelin for his work rate. But I feel sometimes he leaves Arsenal's defence a little bit exposed. He gets caught out of position sometimes as well, and for a defensive midfielder that's not the best quality to have. Despite that, still rate him as a player. I really do think he's a good player, but Xhaka tonight next to Cazorla, who was superb against Southampton, I think that's the lineup which will work for Arsenal, at least where midfield's concerned. Jay asked, due to the sheer attacking quality PSG possess, do you see Xhaka sticking in one too many dirty tackles and getting sent off? Of course, there's a risk with Granit Xhaka. He's known to be a bit of a aggressive player, and he has been booked already in the Premier League. I think whenever you play a player like Xhaka or Coquelin, there's always that risk of bookings and red cards. It's a risk that he'll have to take, and I'm sure he'll be on his best behaviour tonight. He's got some difficult opponents to play against, but I think he can cope with the likes of Matuidi and Cavani. I've got to be honest, I'm slightly worried about Cavani up against Mustafi. We haven't seen Mustafi play against like a top class striker yet. He's only played one game, of course, but in general I think it's going to be a tough match for him. but he did do well against Southampton. Really did impress me. And Lucas Perez as well. I'm not sure he's going to start. He was underwhelming, I guess, again against Southampton. But at the same time, it's his first game, and there's plenty more to come from him, I'm sure. Verratti on the other side can be dangerous, can make those tackles to sit off. Yeah, Verratti's very diminutive, unpredictable, tricky little player, but Arsenal, I think, are confident. I watched them train yesterday. I was probably one of the only journalists there, and I think everyone was happy, smiling, and they looked like they were in a confident frame of mind, and they would be, because they got that last-minute goal against Southampton at the weekend. That's a big morale booster. I think if they lost that or drew that game, fans would have been piling on the pressure ahead of tonight. Instead, they go to Paris with, something to prove, but I don't think there's as much pressure as before. For Arsene Wenger, this is a trophy that he has never won. He came closest to winning it in 2005 and 6 season in Paris, ironically, where Arsenal lost to Barcelona 2-1. A famous defeat. Jens Lehmann got sent off, Sol Campbell scored, and then the second half, Eto'o and Belletti broke Arsenal hearts. Since then, 6 consecutive seasons Arsenal have failed to go past the last 16, so it's been a difficult one for Arsene Wenger's side. I think it's a trophy that he really wants to win before he leaves the club, and there's no doubting his motivation where the European trophy is concerned. It's the biggest trophy on offer. In my opinion, it's bigger than the Premier League, and I think if you have any aspirations of being a top level club, you need to win that. Chelsea did it a few years ago, arguably undeservedly. They were pretty poor, to say the least, but they somehow managed to win that trophy, and they did it. If Arsenal could win it in the same fashion, who cares? It would be a superb achievement if they could do it, but there's a lot of big teams in the competition this year. Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus especially. They have really invigorated themselves. Despite getting rid of Pogba, they brought in Higuain, and I think their transfer dealings this summer just show how difficult the competition is in Europe at the moment. And I'm going to get to more of your questions now. Paddy asks about Iwobi. Do you think Iwobi will start? He says, and I'm not quite sure. I think Iwobi, he had a little cameo at the weekend against the Saints. It'd be interesting to see if obviously Wenger played him against Barcelona, didn't he? That surprise match last season, a very surprise start, but I'm not sure he's 100% physically fit to start a match, especially against the likes of PSG, but I'm pretty sure he will be involved in some capacity. Giroud will score 4 goals, says Milan. Will Ramsey places Yassine? No, Ramsey won't play. He trained separately yesterday. He's been recovering from his hamstring injury, and he trained separately yesterday, not with the rest of the first team. He should be back for the game against Hull on Saturday, and I will be there at the KCOM Stadium, bringing you all the latest from that. Will Giroud play? Says Mohammed. It's not confirmed yet. I mean, I'd like to see Giroud play. I wouldn't like to see Alexis Sanchez start at centre forward. It hasn't worked in the opening 2 games. I don't see why it would work against PSG. I think one of the best defenders in the world is Thiago Silva. I think Sanchez would have a pretty difficult job on his hands to play on his own against him. Probably find himself quite isolated. PSG danger man, says Danish. I think they've got quite a few, and especially in attack. They've got Edison Cavani, Verratti, Lucas Moura, Blaise Matuidi. All of those are big names and came to the club for big money, and I think Arsenal are going to have to be very careful the way they play. And it's going to be a battle in midfield, of course, but I think at the same time you just have to be wary of Cavani up front. He is the kind of player who can score from absolutely anywhere, and he's maybe not on the same level as Ibrahimovic, maybe slightly below, but at the same time he can still do a lot of damage to a defence, and a defence which hasn't played a lot of games together. Mustafi and Koscielny have only been playing together for about a fortnight, 2 weeks, and I think because of that it means a sort of an unpredictable, unknown quantity in Europe. Reese asked for my lineup for today's match. If you have a look on my page, I've actually posted my predicted lineup. I've done a little graphic. Off the top of my head, same back four as Southampton: Bellerin, Koscielny, Mustafi and Monreal. Xhaka, Cazorla in midfield. Walcott, Ozil and Sanchez, and then Olivier Giroud up front. A lot of you saying Giroud shouldn't start, which is interesting. Obviously hasn't started a game this season. Will Ox start? Ox or Walcott? If I have to choose, I'm going to go for Theo Walcott. I just think he does have that top flight experience, top level experience, and this is his season. He really wants to prove something. But you know, I think Oxlade-Chamberlain does give the team a lot of width, and in a team which doesn't have many wingers, he could be successful tonight. So I think maybe there's a possibility that Oxlade-Chamberlain will start. Prediction for the result: I've already said 2-1. I think Arsenal could snatch this from PSG, but a draw wouldn't be a bad result either. I think a draw is something that Arsene Wenger is certainly prepared to take, but he would ideally want to get off to the group stage in excellent fashion by recording a comprehensive win, or even just a win in itself would be good news for Arsenal. Group A isn't the toughest group I've seen. I mean, Basel are going to be a difficult team to play against, of course, but Ludogorets, again, not many people know about them. They have a good midfielder, Brazilian guy Marcelino. They've been taken over, so they've got a lot of riches, but in general I don't think it's the most difficult group, and I think Basel and Ludogorets are not as difficult as Arsenal could have probably drawn against. Sidov asked about Alexis Sanchez. Do you reckon he needs to step up his game? I think Sanchez has been probably not at his best this season. I think he's come back from the Copa America. He's had maybe a little bit of a hangover again, and I think Sanchez just needs maybe a couple of games rest. And I think his goal against Watford, and obviously an amazing assist from Mesut Ozil as well. That cross was superb, nonchalant, and the experiment of playing him through the middle didn't work. As soon as Wenger put him to the left-hand side, he started to show what he can do again. Alexis Sanchez compared himself. He said he's got the same ability as Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. If he truly does believe that, then he needs to show it, and he needs to be playing week in, week out, making assists and scoring goals on a consistent basis, and he hasn't been doing that. It's great to see such self-confidence from a player, but he does need to sort of prove it on the pitch if he's going to, talk like that. Ronaldo and Messi do it week in, week out. They pretty much single-handedly win trophies for their team. Ronaldo and Messi, on another level to most players in the world. I'd say, I did a feature about this the other day, I think Alexis Sanchez is probably more in the Eden Hazard bracket of players. But, there's no reason to say, he's 27 years old, there's no reason to say that he can make it as one of the world's best players in the next few years. He's coming into the peak of his career, and I think he can do it, but he needs to start proving it now, and this season is the time for Alexis Sanchez. Arsenal aficionado says Sanchez will come good when it matters most. He's a man for magical matches. Yeah, well, tonight is the night, isn't it, for Sanchez? If he wants to prove himself on the biggest stage, on the highest level, then a Champions League match against PSG. It's going to be watched by millions of people around the world, of course. No bigger match coming up for Arsenal than this one, and I think he will definitely be confident, and he just needs to show some of the form that we've seen from him last season. If you remember that game against Man United at home, he tore them to shreds pretty much by himself. Him and Theo Walcott were unbelievable. If they can replicate that kind of performance tonight, okay, it wasn't over a year ago, but if they could do that again tonight, Arsenal will have no problem in winning against PSG. Tokau says Lucas should start. Interesting one. I think Lucas, like I said, didn't do particularly well, or didn't do anything of note against Southampton. He was involved in the opening goal, but other than that, I felt like he was a little bit isolated, a bit off the pace. He's only played one La Liga game as well, of course. So he's lacking game time, he's lacking match fitness. Sashank says El Neni surely needs a look in. interesting. I'm really not too sure or convinced by Mohamed Elneny. I think a lot of fans like him. Arsenal have a big Egyptian fan base now, of course, and those fans really want to see him play. But Elneny, for me, he's a good player. He can do a job for you, but he's not world class. He's not the kind of player you want to be playing against the likes of PSG. I do remember his goal against Barcelona, of course, and that was superb. But I feel like sometimes his passing isn't the best. He does remind me a little bit of Denilson. I'm sure Arsenal fans won't be happy with me saying that, but in terms of the way he passes and moves, he's very similar to Denilson. And I feel like Coquelin and Xhaka are better options than Elneny, and they're both ahead of him in the pecking order. So until one of them gets injured, I can't really see him starting. But Arsene Wenger's obviously always full of surprises. There's always a chance for him to be involved, and he will be in the squad for tonight. So you can never rule it out. Torfik says it's going to be a tough game. We've got to believe in ourselves, give it a go, and utilise the chances we get. Yeah, definitely. I think Arsenal, if they get a goal early on, they'll be definitely confident of at least getting something from the game. Arsenal, not known for closing games out, not known for doing that. Kabaddi Awara did an interview with PSG correspondent Loic Tanzi a few days ago, and he said that Arsenal can't close games out, so he thinks it's going to be tight. He thinks it's going to be very close, and I think there's no doubt about it that Arsenal, if they can get 2 or more goals in this game, then they should be very confident of winning it, and they're capable of doing it. They've got one of the best attacks in Europe, there's no doubt. Alexis Sanchez, Mesut Ozil and Theo Walcott, okay, he's been inconsistent, he hasn't produced the goods over the past few years, but he is capable of producing the goods. He is technically a good player, and the pace he has to burn, he can beat players when he is on form and when he is on his day. It's absolutely boiling here outside the Emirates, you can probably tell. But yeah, Arsenal versus PSG tonight. Game kicks off at 7:45 at local time, English time, of course. Who will play alongside Santi Cazorla' Lipin? And I think it's probably going to be Granit Xhaka, but there's quite a few options there. You can understand why Jack Wilshere wanted to leave on loan, because there's so many midfield options, so many central midfield options. You're forgetting Aaron Ramsey as well, another player who isn't available for tonight, but another option in central midfield. Stephen says Xhaka should start. Yeah, I agree. I do think he should start, and he hasn't done anything of, that's made you go wow in a match. He's made a couple of good passes, lofted balls, and you can tell he's got good vision when it comes to that. And he's picked up a couple of yellow cards as well. But other than that, I just feel that Xhaka probably is slightly ahead of Coquelin and Elneny technically, and probably in terms of how Wenger wants the team to play. Henrik says Arsenal and PSG are both good teams. I think Arsenal will have most of the possession. Interesting comment. I think Arsenal are capable of keeping all the possession, and depending on what kind of players, I think if Xhaka plays in midfield, then they definitely will probably edge the possession. I've got a good feeling about that. Mesut Ozil as well, he was off the pace on Saturday against Southampton, wasn't involved in much of the player. I felt he's very isolated in that number 10 role. So if he gets a chance tonight, he will be wanting to put that one right. Jerome says, what do you think about going back to the 4-4-2 formation? It's an interesting one, yeah. I mean, Lucas Perez and Giroud could start up front, couldn't they? And it would completely knock PSG. It would surprise them completely, wouldn't it? I don't think anyone would expect Arsenal to change their formation. And I think Arsenal are capable of just doing that in the games. They could play a 4-3-1-2 or a 4-2-1-3 and interchange the players. Perez could come in from the wing and come inside. There's lots of different options for Arsenal. You could discuss them all day, but I feel that I don't think 4-4-2 is going to be in Wenger's plans anytime soon. I think he's got his set formation and his set sort of best 11, and I think he knows it. Should Gibbs play over Monreal to stop Angel Di Maria, says Said. Yeah, Gibbs hasn't played for a while now. I think he's made maybe one appearance this season. for me, you need to be playing regularly if you're going to be involved in the team. And to start against Angel Di Maria, I think Nacho Monreal is one of the best left backs in the league. He's very solid at left back. Sometimes he gets caught out by pacey wingers, but generally, if Monreal is starting, that the left hand side is going to be fairly safe. I don't think Gibbs should start. He's only just returned from injury. Obviously, he is very injury prone. He does have pace, but again, Gibbs can get caught out positionally. I feel that Arsenal's back four is best left as it is for tonight. I think Mustafi, Koscielny is a good partnership, and I think the two fullbacks, Bellerin and Monreal, are exactly what Arsenal need. And Lipin asked the same question: Monreal or Gibbs? Do you think Perez will get some minutes? Yeah, I think Perez will play. Maybe not from the start, but I think he'll get some game time in the second half. And Persh says we could totally wipe PSG out tonight. Yes, of course, Arsenal are capable of wiping a lot of teams out. It's just about whether they can produce those goods on the pitch. On paper, Arsenal have one of the best teams in Europe. Yeah, if you look at that team on paper, Ozil, Sanchez, come on. Mustafi, superb. The way he passed the ball in the second half of the Southampton game, it looks like a top-class £35 million defender. Riazul says, I think if Giroud starts, Arsenal will win. It's a good, interesting point you make. I think Giroud has something to prove in his homeland. I think he does want to show everyone back in France that he's good. He's received boos, obviously, from the Benzema fanboys and fangirls, of course. I think Giroud is a bit of a difficult one to predict. He sometimes has an amazing game, and at the same time he can miss a really easy opportunity from 6 yards out. He is that kind of player, and I think if he plays tonight, he'll be wanting to prove a lot of people wrong in France, and I'm pretty confident that if he does play, he will score. Is Ramsey ready for today's Sinan? No, he's not. Hamstring injury, not available. Should be back for Hull Premier League game on Saturday, and I will be there for that match against Hull. So make sure you stay locked into my page for the latest. I'll be bringing you all the team news, of course. A couple of Q&As and videos from the KCOM Stadium. Mike Phelan, of course, was named Manager of the Month, so it will be an interesting game. Maybe a different climate to Paris, but we'll see. Mustafi is a great player, says Abdali. Yeah, he's impressed me so far. For £35 million, you'd expect him to be a player good enough to play for Arsenal. Yes, Gavin makes the point I mentioned earlier. Wobie started last season against Barcelona, maybe tonight. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I didn't really think about it before it was mentioned in this live chat. And now you mention it, it would make sense for Wobie to potentially play. He's such a good attacking young player, and he works really hard for the team. I really do like Alex Iwobi. Very down to earth, very family orientated. I think he embodies everything good about Arsenal in 2016. And on the pitch, he's capable of offering that sort of penetration in the final third. Something that we didn't necessarily see against Southampton. Although Arsenal won the game 2-1, I think they struggled to create and conjure up enough opportunities to really sort of finish off the game. There was quite a few shots on target, but in general I don't feel that Arsenal offered much in the final third. Jeremiah says, how is the weather across there? Yes, just so you know guys, the game tonight is not at the Emirates, it's in Paris. Loic Tanzi, our PSG correspondent, is there. I'm here outside the Emirates Stadium, of course, in North London. Not many people around here because most of them are in Paris, but we'll be going to the next Arsenal Champions League games against Basel, of course, and obviously Ludogorets later down the line. Hosni asks, why is Walcott still the same since 2006? I don't think that's a fair comment. I think Walcott has had a couple of good seasons since then. I especially remember his partnership with Robin van Persie a few seasons ago. The amount of assists and goals he laid off to him proved that he is a top quality player, but injuries have really hurt Theo Walcott, and I feel that he's a confidence player. He relies on his morale to sort of get him through games, and some players are like that. Some players can just sort of blur everything out and just play. Walcott isn't one of those. Him and Chamberlain, very, very big confidence players. Chamberlain has been talked about before, his self-belief by Arsene Wenger. He said, like, he just needs to believe in himself, because sometimes he doesn't. And I think Oxlade-Chamberlain, again, he's another one of these players who has bags full of potential, but is yet to really show it on the big stage. Last season only scored 1 goal, didn't he, that Community Shield game. And other than that, the guy has not done enough in an Arsenal shirt. He's even joked about it in videos on Arsenal's YouTube channel. There was a stadium tour. He was given a tour on the pitch, and he said, "Yeah, I'm just going to warm up. This is the substitutes bench where I spend a lot of my time." He's, he's obviously used to spending a lot of time on the subs bench. I'd love to see Oxlade-Chamberlain, Walcott cement starting positions in this Arsenal team and show that they're good enough, because they were brought to the club for big money a few years ago, and both from Southampton, both English players who, are capable of really producing the goods. They just need to show it, just like Sanchez as well. Would you take a draw today, says Siddharth? Yeah, I think a draw would be a good result, but I don't think Arsene Wenger is going to put out a team that are going to go for a draw. I think he'd be going for the 3 points, and I think Arsenal could be confident of getting the 3 points if they play to their strengths, which is possession, passing football. Arsenal will only win in the Emirates, says Akinwotu. I think Paris is a hard place to go to, and I think the Emirates Stadium is equally a very difficult place to play for opposition sides. But I'm not sure how confident the PSG fans will be ahead of tonight's game. I've seen a feature from Robin Berner on Goal.com, who said PSG are not the force they were last season. They've lost Zlatan Ibrahimovic. They're a team in transition. We're going to find out later tonight, aren't we, if they are a team in transition. I do believe that Arsenal are going to win tonight. Maybe proven wrong, but I think they will have the edge over PSG, confidence-wise and in terms of the squad. Sashank says, is Lucas a bigger threat than Di Maria? Personally, I think Di Maria is still one of the top class players in the world. I think moving to PSG was a step down for him. I think he should have been playing in the Premier League. I'm not sure Van Gaal utilised him at his best potential in his best position. I felt a bit sorry for him, actually. I feel like he was used as a bit of a scapegoat for that poor reign that United had under Louis van Gaal. But Hailu asks, when is the game going to start? It starts at 7:45 English time, British summertime. My prediction, asked Jordan, I've already said 2-1. Would I start Perez? No, I wouldn't. I'd play Giroud up front or up top, supported by Sanchez, Ozil and Theo Walcott. Hosni asks, why don't we try Lopez on the right? Perez on the right, like Reyes was. I think he will probably play on the right, but I'm not sure about today. I think Arsene Wenger's probably going to play a team that's well gelled together. I think the Southampton game was a bit of an experiment. So sorry about that, guys. And as I was saying, Perez on the right, I think it's a possibility, but they also do have a lot of options on the right hand side. They've got Theo Walcott, who says he wants to play there. They've also got Oxlade-Chamberlain. Obviously Joel Campbell's been sent out on loan, and Serge Gnabry has been sold. So Arsenal have had a lot of options on the right hand side this season. I think it's going to be between Walcott and Chamberlain for that position. I think Perez will battle it out with probably Sanchez, Giroud, and stick to probably the left hand side. I think that's probably where he's better suited as well. Ashwin asked about Coquelin or Xhaka, who will start. I think I already said Xhaka. Personally, I feel will start. Akinwotu says, any news on Welbeck? Yeah, he's going to be back sooner than expected. December, Christmas time is when he's expected to return from injury. It's been a long time coming for Danny Welbeck, and he's one of my favourite players because he puts in 100% in every match, and he has all the attributes of one of the top class strikers in Europe. He's got pace, he can head the ball, as we saw with his winner against Leicester last season, and in general I feel he's going to battle it out with Giroud and Perez, and That's what Arsenal need, competition up front. Okay guys, questions have dried up. Daniel asked, when can we know the confirmed lineup? About 7 o'clock it usually gets released. UEFA release it on their website, of course, and Arsenal will post it on their official Twitter feed. Gavin says, are we going to see Per Mertesacker again? I hope so. Mertesacker is obviously the captain of Arsenal Football Club. He'll be back in the next 3 months or so. I don't know if he's going to come straight back into the team. It's completely dependent on how Mustafi and Koscielny are doing together. I feel that he may be restricted to maybe the odd appearance if one of them gets injured, or maybe if Arsenal are still in the EFL Cup or the FA Cup, he might be playing that, because obviously Wenger does rest players sometimes. But you're right, Gavin, I feel like it could be the end of Per Mertesacker's career this season, which is a shame. He's given a lot of service for the club, but he's an ageing centre back. He's getting on. He's probably not as good as he was a couple of seasons ago, and I feel that Arsenal do have their best centre back partnership probably ready made. Mustafi and Koscielny look pretty good. Thoughts on the youth game? Yeah, I'll give you my thoughts on that in the comment section below, Sashang. Talk about the PSG first team against Arsenal today, and I think it's going to be a good match and an exciting match, and there's a lot of players on show that I'm looking forward to watching. Let me know who you guys are looking forward to seeing. Di Maria obviously is one of them. Edison Cavani, a player who's been long linked with Arsenal. He's obviously never joined Arsenal, but he's another one of those strikers who's been linked year after year and he's never joined. I feel like Cavani may have a point to prove against Arsene Wenger tonight. Okay, last question here from Sia Fizal. Don't you think Perez will suit European competition instead of the intense physical game of Premier League? Yeah, that's another really interesting point. Obviously European football is more technical, and they penalise fouls a lot more than they do in the Premier League, and I feel that is an interesting point you make, and it may be valid, but at the same time I feel like Theo Walcott, Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil are probably Arsenal's best attacking three at the moment. They know each other very well. With Olivier Giroud up front, I feel like it's a tried and tested attacking unit, which when fully fit they do complement each other and they can beat teams. Actually, there's a couple more questions, so I'll get to them before I head off and prepare for the game. Gavin says, if you were to pick a key player to bring in January, who would it be? I still feel that Arsenal probably could have done with that striker. They got Perez in. He's a versatile forward. He can play on the left hand side, the right hand side, or centre forward. Yes, very good question. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head right now. Maybe Julian Draxler, but again, it's probably not a realistic January signing. Akinwutu asked, what's my take on Wilshere? Yeah, I feel like it's a good move for Jack Wilshere. He needs game time. He's going to get it at Bournemouth. He's not going to stay and fight for his place at Arsenal, which is understandable. There's so many central midfield options. His game time is likely to be limited, and Eddie Howe is going to, train him well and give him chances in midfield, and I think he's going to do really, really well at Bournemouth. I mean, he's going to be in his element there, playing week in, week out with his best friend Benik Afobe. I'm pretty confident he'll do well. And a few more questions. Lloyd says the battle will be in midfield between Xhaka and Verratti, tackles and passes, mouth-watering. Yeah, it will be a good match. Harris Koscielny says Mihalayo. Koscielny is fine. He was a doubt originally for the match, but he trained yesterday. Wenger said that he recovered much quicker than expected, much faster than expected. Can Ox do something in Europe, says Daniel. Again, yeah, I think Oxlade-Chamberlain will want to prove himself on the highest level. The Champions League is the highest level. If he starts tonight, then yeah, but I have a feeling he probably won't start tonight. He'll probably come off the bench, which is a bit of a common trend with Oxlade-Chamberlain, unfortunately. Okay, last question is from Jerome. It's about Chuba Akpom. What about Chuba Akpom? He says, yeah, Akpom is obviously behind Lucas Perez and Olivier Giroud in the pecking order up front. I'd expect him to play in the EFL Cup game against Nottingham Forest at the end of the month, so he'll probably be involved in that. So we get to see Akpom up close, and he's really highly rated. He was told to stay because he'd be getting game time this season. So we'll have to wait and see if he does play, but I'm excited to hopefully see him play against Nicholas Bentner, of course, of Nottingham Forest. That would be a return for Bentner. That would be a very interesting match to watch. But guys, I'm going to head off now. Thanks for all your questions, really appreciate it, and stay tuned to my page and Loic Tanzi, PSG correspondent, ahead of tonight's game. It's PSG versus Arsenal in Paris. I'm here outside the Emirates Stadium, of course, but follow Goal for all the latest updates, and of course enjoy the game.